ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Right, I'm not slightly nervous at all.
Don't be nervous.
Right. Shake off the nerves. Right, you ready?
Yeah, it's just two friends talking, remember? Just two friends.
It's just two friends talking. That's like, you know what? Screw it. That's the start. It's just two friends talking.
Just two friends talking.
Welcome. Yeah. Welcome to the first episode of the Generation Platinum podcast, which we don't have a name for yet.
No.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my mouth and then someone's going to edit the actual name in afterwards for when this goes live. Give me 3 seconds just to move my mouth. Just two friends talking gaming. There we go. Post-production will fix all that.
Perfect.
Perfect. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. I've been not very well for the last couple of days, but feeling better now. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. As we were saying just before this, a little bit nervous for the first episode. Well, technically the second, but the pilot will never see the light of day.
Yeah, no. Nobody needs to see that. Maybe in a year.
It's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame. The edit was perfect. The back and forward was perfect. We had a good flow. It definitely wasn't awkward and badly researched or anything like that.
It was top tier content.
Top tier content.
Yeah.
It was honestly, we could have been millionaires on that one.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't stick with it. We should have just put that in.
We like a challenge, make it
week.
harder for ourselves. Yeah. Every other week we'll drop 2 minutes on that video.
Yeah.
So today we're going to take 4 games, 2 each, coming out over, should be the next, as of recording, 3 or 4 months. Mm-hmm. But delays could ruin that, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about them a little and predict their Metacritic score. So I think the best way to do this is we'll look at their Metacritic score a week after they've released. Mm-hmm. I think that gives enough time to get a feel of where the game's going to land with its final score. And some of these will have online components, so it will take a few days for proper Metacritic scores to probably go up. We're going to do it off critic reviews, not user reviews, because we live in a world where people like to review bomb things if they get upset with it.
Such a terrible practice to do that as well.
It is.
It's just dumb.
I was looking at a couple of the scores for things we're going to talk about in a minute, and you could see like the critics review was 70s and then the user reviews were 3. And sometimes that might just be a genuine disconnect between critics and players, but normally it's a case of things are being review bombed, isn't it? So
yeah,
we'll do it, I think, a week after the games come out, and we'll do it off the critic review, not the user review. And we'll get a point each if, let's say, should we say we're 5 points either way?
2
within the final grade. So
2 points.
You want to go 2?
Yeah.
2 points. So what? It's if it comes as a 70, we're allowed to guess 68, 69, or 71 and 72.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, 2 points. That sounds fair. I like that. And the loser, what's the loser got to do? Loser has to admit they're a bitch on the next podcast when when these games are all out.
Okay, yeah, fine.
It wouldn't be the first time either of us have had to admit that.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, you are a bitch, but that's fine.
Wow. And that was the last ever episode of this podcast. Thank you for watching. So I've picked 2 games. I've gone with Gotham Knights and Skull and Bones. And you have picked 2, right?
Yep, I've gone for God of War Ragnarok and the other being the Callisto Protocol.
Oh, okay. So
I can say I'm excited for all 4 of these games. So it's going to be good to see.
You're a liar.
Well, okay, Gotham Knights not so much, but I'm not as big as a fan of the Bat fam as you are, but
Bat fam.
I'm,
that's what they should have named the game. The Bat fam.
I probably would have played it at that point. I mean, I probably will play it, but when it's cheap. I don't want to pay 40 quid, 60 quid for it, whatever a game costs these days.
Look, it's got a co-op mode, which means it's going to have co-op trophies, which means if I want that platinum, I'm going to need a friend to play it with. So
we'll see. When's it out?
We'll see. It is out October the 25th. It's gone gold, so there should be no delays. For those that don't know, gone gold means no more no more real work's being done on it. It's being sent off to be printed onto discs,
Perfect.
etc. I'm sure they're working on a huge day one patch, as every developer does now, but it's definitely going to hit that date. So should we start with Gotham Knights?
Might as well.
Already kind of talking about it. So I've made some Gotham notes on Gotham Knights. As we said, October 25th, 2022 is its current release date. I actually don't know if that's US or UK, so maybe that's going to be a little different for us. It's being developed by WB Games Montreal, who don't have the most extensive background. Their first game that I could see, and I'm taking most of this from Wikipedia, was Batman Arkham City Armored Edition, which is the Wii U port of Batman Arkham City.
I was going to ask.
So,
I was like, what?
Yeah, so they didn't develop the game, they just ported it for the Wii U. That's currently sat at 85 on Metacritic, which is very high, actually. But the problem with it, and my concern, is that that's a port. And while that's easy enough to mess up, obviously, how much of that 85 is because they did a fantastic job putting it on the Wii U? Or how much of it is because, I mean, Batman Arkham City just was loved by everyone.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at games made by these guys, this is their highest rated game, and it's a port of someone else's game.
I preferred Arkham Asylum, if I'm honest. But
yeah, you're one of those people.
Yeah.
So yeah, 85. So that's a nice high start, but again, you got to consider the fact it's not their game.
Yeah.
Then it gets worse for them, and they made Lego Legends of Chima. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Kaima? I think it's
Kaima. Lego Legends of Kaima Online. Which
I've never even heard
I
of
believe. No, or would I? I had a quick look at it earlier, and I believe it's a Lego TV show or an animated series, and they made an online game for that, and it lasted like 2 years, I think. It has no Metacritic review,
Great,
or user review, and there's no review section on the Wikipedia article. Under normally it says reception, and it lists like the best reviews it gets. It's got nothing.
Nice.
I'm sure someone reviewed this game, but not enough people for it to have a score, which is a little concerning for ranking what I think their Metacritic will be for Gotham Knights. And then their final game is Arkham Origins, which came out very mixed, I think. People often consider it the worst of the quadrilogy of Arkham games. It was never included in any of the remasters or the collection editions of those games.
I've never played it.
People often moan. Yeah, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people moaned about it because it didn't have the original voice cast. It was a prequel game.
Yeah.
That's sitting at 76 on Metacritic, which is... It's actually not too bad, considering it had a lot going against it. Like I said, it had a different cast. It wasn't by Rocksteady, who did the rest of the Arkham games. So it had multiplayer, which none of the other Arkham games did, which I did play back in the day. And it was one of those where it's like good ideas executed poorly. But overall, I do like the game, but it's quite clearly the bastard child of the Arkham series. So yeah, 76. So really, of their 3 games, 85 and 76, which isn't too bad.
Yeah, it's not the worst
but
scores.
If you ask me, I don't think you can count the 85. I'm sure a lot of hard work went into the port. This isn't trying to take a shot at the developers, but I'm not sure when you're porting someone's game how much of that Metacritic score you can take for yourself. Because really, as long as you do a good job and the game runs on the machine, you didn't do anything else that makes the game good. You just made sure it works on a different platform, which is, again, a lot of hard work. I couldn't do it, but...
The only thing I'm thinking is maybe that Armored Edition had extra bits added on.
It included all the DLC, but again, they didn't do the DLC.
Oh, so it's just like a complete edition for the Wii U.
Yeah, though it is worth pointing out they did do some of the DLC for Arkham Knight. I didn't include those reviews here because they were like an hour or two long content.
Yeah.
I think people were mixed on that as well. I don't think it blew anyone's socks off enough to make them pick up. You know, if you already weren't picking up Arkham Knight, you weren't going to pick it up for the DLC. So yeah. So really, if being kind of brutal, 76 is their one Metacritic score. It's not a lot to go on. I was hoping for a lot more, so I could try and figure out their average. So I'm really excited for Gotham Knights. I loved all the Arkham games, though it should be noted that this isn't set in the Arkham universe. It's completely its own thing. So I'm going to read the plot from Wikipedia. So, the game is set in Gotham City after the deaths of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Did you know? Batman and Bruce Wayne, same person. Fun fact for you.
What? Spoiler.
I know, mind blown. Also, Police Commissioner James Gordon is dead. No one cares. And has resulted in a rise of crime and lawlessness. Players assume the role of 4 of Batman's former proteges. We've got Dick Grayson, Nightwing, Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, Tim Drake, Robin, and Jason Todd, Red Hood.
No Damian.
They are going to continue. No Damian. He's not included.
I'd buy
in
it
this.
if Damian was in it.
Well, he's the worst, you know, Robin. So, what does that say about you?
That I'm the worst, maybe.
Wow, I didn't want to say it out loud. They are attempting to continue his legacy by protecting Gotham. Upon receiving a pre-recorded message from Batman, during the game, the heroes will encounter several supervillains, and spoilers if you're going into this game blind, but those will include Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, and Penguin. Gameplay, we are looking at it's not a bad lineup. Gameplay-wise, we're looking at a action role-playing open-world Gotham City. We know we can play as all 4 characters and be able to switch between them at will. I'm sure there'll be certain missions locked to them, but I think in free mode you can play whoever you want. They'll all have their own playstyle and abilities. They're also including a loot-based system and skills, which skills were more upgrades than the other ones, but yeah, loot wasn't in the Arkham games, so that's going to be new to this franchise. You can drive around the city in a bat cycle, and there will be a 2-player online co-op to play with friends.
Nice.
So that's what we're looking at. I've been watching some gameplay this morning before talking about it, and I'm concerned. I'm a little concerned, not a lot concerned. I think my bias, I'm a huge Nightwing fan. And I do love the other characters you can play as, but mainly Nightwing. Love that dick. Just love it.
Wow.
Wow. It had to be done. I think this game's got an uphill battle ahead of it. It's going to be compared to Arkham. It just will be. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. You know, that's what this studio is most known for, is that one Arkham Origins game, and people are always just going to compare it to what's come before. And I think, honestly, it's not going to be as good as the Arkham games, probably. And it doesn't need to be. It's its own franchise. It's its own thing. But people will compare it, and they'll say, well, you can do this in Arkham. Why can't you do it here? That's a step backwards. I've seen that a lot on Reddit and YouTube comments. A lot of people already comparing, like, oh, you removed this system from the Arkham games to put it here. And I think people are going to have a real hard time separating the two franchises. And of course, there's an argument to be made. Side characters aren't as interesting as Batman is himself. I don't necessarily agree with that, but some people will. Some of the dialogue in these gameplay videos are very cheesy. It was a holy finishing move, Nightwing, or something like that. And I get that's a bit of a parody, but it wasn't great. I remember in one of the character bios for Barbara Gordon, there was a bit of an issue where it was like, through a training program and exercise, she can now walk again. And I know they've had to come out and say, we're going to change that, because that's not really appropriate, saying if you just exercise a bit, you can stop being paralyzed.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of it seems a bit cheesy. I was watching some of the gameplay, and it's very slow compared to Arkham. And I know I'm falling into that trap of doing a comparison, but you have to have that fast kind of combat when you're a Batman-esque character, and you've got to have your combos, and it just looked very slow and very like floaty, like, you know, you're far off in the distance punching one guy and then you fly across the, let's say, the rooftop to punch the other one, and it just doesn't seem to connect very well. It doesn't seem to be any combos in it. It seems to be just a lot of punching, and again, it shouldn't compare, but it does seem like a step backwards.
I mean, in essence, it's like everyone's going to think Gotham Knights is a Batman game, and other Batman games are the Arkham games. So it's a natural comparison. So it's dodgy water in the end. Yeah, I think even the Suicide Squad game will be compared to the Arkham games. That is Rocksteady though, isn't it?
That is.
Yeah. But yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, it's just I really want it to be good, and I am looking forward to it. I think if you can separate it enough, you'll enjoy it. But there are some things that you have to take from those games, not even because they're some kind of incredible standard on how to make a game, but some of it just works from a gameplay point of view, like the fast-hitting combos and the punching and the fighting. And they don't have to copy it in this one, but they should keep that kind of pace and that kind of feeling. And it doesn't look like they have, and that might just be someone's playing on easy for the point of the demo, or it's just in an earlier part of the game where there's not too many enemies, you're lower level, but yeah, I'm concerned. And then you've also got co-op on top of it, which if that's buggy, that's going to lower its Metacritic. It's going to be an interesting place where this one lands. There seems to be a lot of hate for it online, which is unfortunate, because I do think for the most part it looks good. I mean, you have me sold. I get to play as Nightwing, running around, punching people and interacting with Batman characters. What's not to like? And it's got a loot system, and I'm a sucker for that. So I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I hope a lot of people do. And I would be worried for this studio, especially with everything Warner Brothers is going through right now, both in their film department, but also their game department. There was a lot of talks a few months back about selling off properties and closing studios. These guys are really best known for a port and a prequel game. And if this doesn't go well for them, I do worry about what that would mean. Especially as I think they were working on the Suicide Squad game first, right? Ages ago. You didn't play Origins, but there was a tease for it. And I think there was a rumour that they were going to do the Suicide Squad game, and then that didn't pan through. And I think there's also a rumour they were doing a Superman game at one point.
I remember that rumour. I was looking forward to that.
Again,
I could deal with a Superman game. That'd be fun.
I think we all could. But those were just rumours. But yeah, I would ride for these guys if it doesn't do well. That would be what a prequel game that is considered the worst, and then it's Gotham Knights if that fails. Yeah, I wouldn't know how that would pan out for them, but I'm personally excited for it. I think there's a lot of fun to have if you could separate it from the Arkham universe, but I think the story and the gameplay is really, I mean, it's unknown right now. Because it's its own thing, it's going to have that uphill battle of trying to establish itself in its universe with its own rules. I don't know. I'm not... Something like, we'll get onto it when you discuss God of War, but something like God of War, you can point at and go, you just have that feeling it's going to be good. You know, and when I look at this, I go, I have a feeling I'm going to like it.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about my personal review. We're talking about where it lands on Metacritic. What do you think?
Well, as you mentioned, like, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Well, I'm not looking forward to it. Obviously, Batman's kind of cool. I played a couple of the other Arkham games, and although this isn't linked story-wise, it's still linked in terms of developers. So, I mean, yes, I think it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be a bad game at all. I think that it's cool that you can play as 4 characters. I think that's going to really benefit the whole game, because some of the Assassin's Creed, Batman games got very stale because you played as Batman throughout the whole thing, you know. And I remember Arkham City being quite long, even though you could play as Catwoman. It was quite long and it was all quite samey. So maybe this will change it up, and it will be a bit more fast paced because you can play as multiple people. The The villains sound pretty cool, like Court of Owls. That's going to be very cool to like dive into.
Yeah, that is very exciting.
I know they've been adapted for. Was it Gotham they were in?
Yeah, they were in Gotham.
Yeah, so and I know they're quite a big point in comics and stuff. So it'd be cool to have a proper adaptation of those. But I haven't honestly. I haven't really seen more than watching. I mean, when the first trailers dropped in what was it? No,
it was some game show. I think, wasn't it?
Summer of Gaming or something, or like a state of play or something. I haven't looked much into the game past that, so I think it's going to be okay. But that's all I've got for that game. Like, I'll probably play it, but I'm not excited for it.
Yeah. I am very excited, so please don't hurt me, WB Games.
I'm sure they won't. I'm sure they won't.
I'm sure they will. I'm gonna.
What would you give it then? What would the score be?
That's what I'm trying to figure out now. I think it's gonna teeter.
Yeah.
On either 6. I think if we're saying we'll do Metacritic, which is out of 100, but if we're talking about standard game reviews, which is normally out of 10, I can see it getting either 6 or 7s or 7 and 8s. I don't think there's going to be any in between. I don't think there'll be 9s or 10s, but I don't think there'll be 5s.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be more closer to... I think 6 is too low, so I'm going to go 72 Metacritic score.
All right.
That buys me 7. I can't see it getting 6s unless it's really buggy or it's just really bad. So that means I've got to go in the 70s, but I can't see it getting 78s or 79s.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 72, which covers me for 70 and 74.
Okay.
And the in-between. So, yeah, that's me for
I'd
Gotham
probably
Knights.
agree with that.
Yeah, let's hope. I hope it gets 9s and 10s. That'd be fantastic. Obviously, we want these games that we're guessing on to do as well as possible, but yeah, gut says 72, so I'm going to go and write that down somewhere. It's 72.
72. Okay. Cool.
What have you got for me, baby?
The hot topic of the year, God of War. So we're going to go God of War Ragnarok. Obviously, it's the sequel to the 2018 God of War and the most recent God of War in the entire God of War franchise. I think there's like 11 games at this point.
1, 2, 3, 2. Was there 4 PSP games? Ascension. Yeah, it's getting up there, isn't
There's
it?
Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus. I think there's at least
there's a long list.
10. But yeah, no, very looking forward to it. Obviously, it got delayed from last year, just because of the scope of the game. I think they just wanted to make it a little bit better. As a brief intro, I'll read you the synopsis. So, Fimble Winter, also known as the Great Winter, is well underway. Kratos and Atreus must journey to each of the 9 realms in search of answers as Asgardian forces prepare for the prophesied battle that will end the world. Along the way, they will explore stunning mythical landscapes and face fearsome enemies in the form of Norse gods and monsters. The threat of Ragnarok, the final destruction of the world, grows ever closer. Kratos and Atreus must choose between their own safety and the safety of the realms. Now that in itself, I just want to play it. Like from that, reading that, I'm like, I'm in. So it releases in November. I think it was October to begin with, for this year anyway. And then they pushed it back just a little bit more. I think it competes with something else now. I think that's... I can't remember what it is.
COD?
It might be COD.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's going to be... I think it's going to be great just off the bat. So Santa Monica Studios of doing it again. Having a look today, I thought they'd done more, but they've literally done just all the God of War games. Internally anyway. They worked with other external developers for lots of different things like Twisted Metal and things like that, but internally all they've done is God of War, which is like as we said, like 10 games. God of War 1, so the original, has a score of 94 on Metacritic, and the most most recent one, the 2018, also has a score of 94. Now, I didn't want to go through all of them because they're all quite high. The lowest is the prequel to number 1, God of War Ascension.
Ascension, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that has a current score of 80. So, either way we look at it, this is going to be scoring high. Like, I think Santa Monica have done a great job of just making a great franchise. I think it helps that they work very closely with Sony. I think Santa Monica Studios is one of Sony's flagship studios, so it's a bit easier than them being an independent studio. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. Like, I mean, there's loads to be said about this. Like, there's obviously the story that's coming out. You know, I don't know, those of you who've played 2018's God of War, I mean, you have, Jack. That story built on everything that had already been set up. I mean, I'd never played the other God of Wars till quite recently. But as a standalone story is amazing. Like, it's father and son story, battling everything they could find, but also, like, trying to parent a kid in a war zone.
We've all done that.
Yeah, right. But also, like, the main point, I don't know if you remember, but I forgot about it, but the main point of the story was for them to get the mother's ashes to the highest peak of the 9 realms. Now, I'd completely forgotten all about that till I did some research the other day and was like, oh yeah, that was the reason. Obviously, so much more comes into it, and to get to that point, they have to do 1,000,001 things. But yeah, it was amazing. And, you know, the story left with such a cliffhanger, and it's been 4 years now and people are still gagging for this game. I really hope it doesn't get delayed any further, because November's going to be a good month for me if this game comes out. But yeah, obviously they've said that this is going to be the last game of the Norse mythology, which is kind of upsetting because it's a very cool concept to have. Obviously Thor was teased at the end of the last one and has been confirmed to be in the next one. And it's a shame that we had so many games of Greek mythology. We had the 3 main games plus all the spin-offs, and we've only had these 2, albeit they're larger, but we've only got these 2 games. Now, the best thing about that is, where are they going to go next? You know, could they go to Egyptian mythology, which I think they've mentioned before in a comic, but could they go to, like, Chinese mythology and get like the Monkey King involved? What's his name? Can't remember his name.
I don't know.
Can't remember his name. Or is it going to be awful, and is Kratos going to die at the end?
Yeah, because that was I might be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure they were considering doing God of War without Kratos.
Yeah, for this one, this game, they were like.
No, I thought it was the last one.
Maybe
the reboot, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'd be the same without him. Like, I just couldn't play it. Like, I couldn't play a God of War game not playing as Kratos. Like, I don't know, it wouldn't be right in my mind. But the best thing about this game is that obviously they're utilising all the new technology that we have, so like the PS5 for one. And I was reading this article about how they have all these new accessibility options. So obviously we have like so many things with the controls, the PS5 controls these days. In the new one, we can fully customize the controller. So, as in the outputs to the buttons. So, say we don't like, you know, jump is X, we could change it for L1 if we wanted to. I think it goes deeper than that, but that's obviously an example to the viewers who maybe don't know what that means. So yeah, but we'll also be able to change the settings so we can have automated movements. So jumping over things or climbing up things. When we get close to that aspect, it will do it automatically, which is pretty cool, especially if you've got issues like disability issues that could hinder you playing. Really helps you doing that. And then there's also like extra subtitle options and things like that, which fully utilize the PS5's capabilities. And yeah, it's just really cool that they've put these things in. Going into the story, or not the story, but the gameplay itself.
Yep.
One, it looks beautiful. Everything that we've seen so far, you can agree that it looks amazing, right?
Oh yeah, it looks beautiful.
Oh yeah.
It's probably going to be the best looking game of this year.
Yeah, definitely. If it doesn't win game of War, Game of the Year.
Yeah, you got Elden Ring though, haven't you?
Yeah, but Elden Ring is okay.
Oh, this might come out actually after the Game Awards.
Oh yeah, because it's like September
close enough to it.
September, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, there's some rules like that. You might find it's actually in
The year after.
2023's consideration. Yeah.
I hope so. But yeah, so we got amazing graphics, amazing. It looks great. But they've obviously every game brings in like new abilities, and again they've done the same thing. So he's now got a grappling hook. You know, like every game needs a good grappling hook, and it was in God of War 2. Actually, he had a grappling hook using his Blades of Chaos.
Yep.
It wasn't in number 1, and it's not in number 3 as far as I know. But yeah, and it wasn't in the 2018 one. So, but they brought it back, which is pretty cool. But you can also use that to like hook enemies and bring them closer to him and things like that, which looks pretty cool. Whether or not we'll actually use it to that a large extent is something else. But and to keep it fresh, they brought in new enemies. If they just used the same enemies as last time, then it'd get a bit boring. And they have also, you know how in the first one we went to about 3 or 4 of the realms. So we went to Midgard, we went to Helheim, we went to Alfheim, and there was another one we went to, but can't remember. The fiery one.
Muspelheim?
Yeah, Muspelheim. And in this one, apparently we're going to be able to go to all of the realms. So there's 9 locations, 9 different realms, obviously with their own locations within that. So that's at least 3 large realms that, or 5 new realms that we're going to be able to explore and find out, which is I think is really cool. Like Norse mythology is just one of the coolest things. Like in playing 20, excuse me, getting too excited. In playing 2018, when Jormungandr, the world serpent, turned up, that was just mind blowing. Like
that was impressive that you pronounced that pretty well.
Yeah, I've been watching lots of videos. But yeah, very cool. And obviously, I think they're going to keep in the same vein that there's going to be puzzles, there's going to be giant bosses to play, but still have that heartwarming centre. The story is going to be still about father and son. Like I've read that it's going to draw upon Kratos' anger about his son being spoiler Loki, and I think obviously maybe he knows more about it than he's letting on or something. But there's obviously going to be mysteries unfolding, and just brilliant things to watch and come into it. I mean, we've also got the wolves, the transportation as the wolves on the sled, which is going to be cool. New characters. We got Durin. I think his name is Durin, the guy with the squid on his shoulder. He looks like a dwarf, but nobody really knows who he is. So he's a completely new character. And we have the blacksmiths that come back. The blue guy and the non-blue guy. So the brothers, the dwarven brothers. But yeah, I mean, I'm fully looking forward to it. And obviously, recently, just as a little side note, they recently announced that there was a God of War TV show coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it actually does come out is another story, but it's got to be good. Yeah, what do you think?
You told me a lot of stuff that I didn't know, by the way, for this.
Oh yeah.
I was genuinely zoned out a little just listening. I mean, this is a day one purchase for me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, because I know I'm getting it day one, I haven't really looked up much of it. I watched the initial reveal, whenever that was, And I have gone, not on purpose, but I've gone pretty much into the dark with this game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any of some of the new stuff you were saying. I mean, so you said, what do I think? Santa Monica Studios have, in a few years, really quickly become on the level of Naughty Dog. And how they come up in discussion when you're talking about these extremely well-made games, these extremely pretty-looking games. And you just expect greatness from them. All right, it's not maybe going to be for everyone, but when you're talking about a Naughty Dog game, for example, no one's saying, oh, maybe it'll come out to 6s or 7s. Or people are like, yeah, that's going to be a 9. That's going to be at least a 9. And of course, one day, one of these guys will fail, and they'll take a misstep, and it won't go well.
It'll be a sad day, won't it, when they fail?
Yeah, but I don't see it coming anytime soon. And with Ragnarok, yeah, I'm extremely excited. I do prefer the Greek mythology to the Norse, but the Norse stuff is still very, very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm just excited for it. I don't really have too much to say. And I also think, in terms of, I mean, you're going to predict the score, not me, but you know what kind of number it's going to be off the bat.
It's going to be like 95. Really, I'm saying 95 straight away.
You're saying 95? That's not too bad.
I think it's going to beat the other games. And I think like there's also that like backlog of waiting and anticipation that it's going to raise it just that little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think with my prediction of Gotham Knights, I've got a lot of room to be wrong, right? I think I went 72. That could easily be in the 60s. It could easily be in the 80s. It could easily be in the 90s. Where with yours, I think you're pretty much secured. It's in the 90s.
Yeah, 100%.
I could be 10 to 15 points wrong, where I think you're going to be 2 or 3 wrong at worst.
I mean, I'd love it to be 100, but I just don't think that's going to be the case.
Nah.
I just don't think... Is there any games that are 100 at the moment?
There's got to be. Let's have a quick look. You finish up your spiel while I've...
Yeah, no, it's just... I think it's going to be 95. I think a lot of people are looking forward to this game. I think they've obviously put in a lot of time for it. It's a fan favourite franchise. Like, if they ruined it, then I think a lot of people would be upset. I'd be upset. Like, playing the 2018 one and this new game coming out has made me play their old games. So I've recently played number 1, number 2, got the platinums, and now I'm playing number 3. So it's just like, it'd be upsetting if it was bad. Or if there was a bad ending to the story as well. That's one thing. That's probably one thing that I'm nervous about. That either they kill off Kratos, or that it's just the stories. They've put too much emphasis on the gameplay that they haven't done the story justice. But that's it, really.
Yeah, there's a chance. I think it's a low chance, but yeah, sure, there's a chance.
Yeah. Nice.
Right, before I move on to mine. Yeah, 95. But before I move on to my last one, top 5 games on Metacritic by score. There is no 100.
Really? There
is 199. Would you like to hazard a very wild guess? I'm going to help you out a little bit here.
Okay, is it...
It's a...
Okay, what?
It's a Nintendo-based product.
Is it Mario?
It is not. One more try.
It's not Animal Crossing, is it?
It's The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time at 99.
I don't give a fuck about Zelda, but
couldn't give a shit.
Honestly, couldn't give a shit.
But quickly running through the top 5 as we're here. 98, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Fair enough.
98 again, Grand Theft Auto 4 for the PlayStation 3.
That's a strange one.
Yep, Soul Calibur is their 4th.
First one.
Has 98 also. Dreamcast, 1999. Oh. And then their 5th is, shouldn't really count, but it's Grand Theft Auto 4 on the 360 instead of the PlayStation. As a side, for my 2 games and for Castillo Project for you, we'll take the PlayStation 5 Metacritic score. Just in case there's a... Actually, you know what? No. We'll take the highest score based on any platform, just in case one platform has technical problems that the others don't. Okay. So yeah, that's your top 5. There's Grand Theft Auto dominates the top 10 on Metacritic,
It's
because
just playable
Grand
for
Theft
everyone,
Auto
isn't it?
5. Well, yeah, because Grand Theft Auto 5 is in there twice for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 3 version. Red Dead 2's in there. But yeah, no 100. No game's ever got 100 on Metacritic.
Fair enough.
So, my second game, Skull and Bones.
Nice.
Developer is Ubisoft Singapore.
Love Ubisoft.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. So, Ubisoft Singapore is the lead developer on this. It should be noted that there are multiple developers working on it, as is usually the case with a Ubisoft game these days.
Mm-hmm.
The development started in 2013, which is already a concerning place for this game to be.
Yep.
It has passed around multiple studios and gone through multiple iterations. So, Ubisoft Singapore are famous for pretty much 2 games. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time Reshaped.
So it's a remake.
It's a remake, yeah.
Great.
That sat at 60 on Metacritic.
Not good.
Their second most famous game is Tom Clancy's Recon Phantoms, an online game that barely lasted 2 years.
Never even heard of it.
That sat at 70.
When did that come out?
Great question that I don't have the answer for. A very long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
Those are their 2 games, pretty much. Anything else they've worked on as a co-developed studio. So they've worked on Valhalla, Odyssey, Unity, Revelations, but they were not the lead. They were just well, not just, but they were a side team that just contributed to it.
Okay, just to jump in there, Phantoms was a free-to-play game in 2014.
Right.
There you go.
So, they don't really have the pedigree, so to speak,
stakes
do they?
weren't too high on that, really.
No, so, yeah. Though you have to give them credit, looking at gameplay and stuff for Skull and Bones is clearly a big step forward to what they've done in the past. I don't know about this game, man. I really want it to be good. I love Pirates. Pirates is my jam. I love Sea of Thieves. Clearly, and I think they were quite open about this back in the day when they started development, this game is ripping the mechanics of Black Flag, in particular the ship combat and the ship navigation.
Good.
And making an entire game around that, which is great, right? Those mechanics were
They
excellent.
were fantastic. Yeah.
We spoke about them at length on the episode that will never be
the
seen.
other episode.
Oh god, but yeah, so it's great, but again, unknown studio, but they do have Ubisoft's backing, and I'm sure there's multiple Ubisoft studios helping them out. My biggest takeaway, well, my 2 biggest takeaways is looking at it this morning is it's a case of it's been in development hell, and sometimes they turn out good. You know, there's that adage of... is that the correct word? Whatever. There's that saying that a good game, I can't even remember, but essentially delaying a game is a good thing. It can only make it better, right? And that's certainly the case in some places. But when it's quick maths, 9 years of development, you start to wonder, can it ever be good? So I think that's the first thing that's got to go against it. The second thing is that ship combat in Black Flag was fantastic, and it looks really good in the gameplay in the videos I watched this morning. The thing I think of is 2 parts. Where's the land-based stuff? Part of that pirate fantasy, of course, is sailing the high seas, saying a lot. But a lot of it is that sword-to-sword combat, that is the buried treasure, that is mystical-esque elements like skeletons or something like that. And from what we've seen, you're only ever on the ground during dens. So if I have a quick read of, the gameplay, because there is no plot from what we can tell. We haven't really been told much. We know you're sailing in the Indian Ocean, and we know that you're getting contracts versus a typical narrative based storyline. So the gameplay is, as such, it's a tactical action game set in an open world environment and played from a third person perspective. Players take control of a customizable pirate captain and may choose to sail the Indian Ocean by themselves and by themselves and set off on a single player campaign, or gather up to 5 other players to ally in player versus player gameplay in disputed waters. I'm pretty sure that's incorrect, Wikipedia.
I thought
that's
it was only 3.
I think it's 3. So fuck you, Wikipedia. Wind positioning can be assessed to gain an advantage in battle. Players may collect additional ships throughout the game, such as sloops of war, frigates, and brigantines, whose weapons include mortars, broadside cannons, and rockets. Ships can be charged into with brute force and boarded. So, yeah, there's not a lot on the gameplay at the moment. We have only had that one reveal. I'm sure we'll see more soon. I'm pretty sure Ubisoft have 2 September events coming up. One for Assassin's Creed and one for in general. So I'm sure we'll see more then. So I'm concerned from what we've seen so far is a very big lack of on foot. Only in dens, right? So these dens are areas where you can load out your ship with supplies and ammo. You can take on your contracts and you can interact with other players in the world. I personally would really love land stuff. I don't feel that... While Black Flag ship combat was fantastic, I don't think that many people were asking for only that to be ripped out and made into a game. I feel like a lot of people at the time were saying, we want Black Flag again, but pure pirates.
Yeah, no.
And
even Sea of Thieves isn't like that. And that's what makes it good, that you have the 2 parts to it.
Yeah. And that's why I feel they've gone wrong. I feel like back in the day, people really wanted Black Flag again, but just as a pure pirate setting and a pure pirate character. And what Ubisoft done here is done half the job.
Yeah.
And they've gone, we'll take, admittedly, a fantastic element of Black Flag, but the rest, we're going to leave. And I worry how long that can last. I mean, take Sea of Thieves, and whether you like it or not, it is a popular game, and I'm not sure I would enjoy that game as much if my entire experience was fighting on the waters. Forget whether you're good or bad at it, because I'm clearly the best Sea of Thieves player in the world, and I definitely don't get sunk every single time I try.
Yeah, but yeah, of course.
Of course, naturally, best pirate in the world. Pirate Legends, so you know.
Yeah. Right. Don't rub it in.
But I wouldn't enjoy that game as much as if it was purely on the water. I like getting off my ship and looking for treasures, solving riddles, fighting skeletons and various other crazy monsters. And I worry without that in Sea of Thieves, Skull and Bones, I'm not sure if it's got as much legs to last. You know, I was watching some gameplay and there's a lot of fighting ships and fighting forts, and it's just like, that's great, but how long does that last?
Yeah.
And I wonder what Ubisoft's plan is for... I mean, it says in the gameplay I just read to you, and they're marketing it as a game that can be played solo, but better with friends. And we know what that means from Ubisoft. That means there's going to be a lot of things that they want you to play online and not on your own.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be good and sometimes bad. If they plan on supporting this game for a fair few years, it could develop into something really great. But I'm not sure, as a package sold on the disc, how good that game will be over a prolonged period of time. I think that first 5 to 10 hours of the game is going to be fantastic. But if it boils down to, you stop at a den, you buy your contracts to raise your infamy, which is a progression-based thing they haven't said too much on it. But if you get your contracts, you go out, you destroy a ship, you take the loot, you come back, you go out, and so on and so on. How long does that last? Because even with Sea of Thieves, to an extent, they've got the land stuff. I personally find after a prolonged period of time, you go, okay, I need a break from this, because it is the same thing. And they arguably, at the moment, from what it looks like, have more than Skull and Bones will at launch. I really don't know. And we're talking about the first week of reviews here. And Ubisoft haven't got the best reputation with their online launches. The one that always pops to my head is I think it's the Division 1, where you needed to watch or interact with a laptop on a desk before you could really kick off and play the game. And because it was online, they had done something with the collision, but basically meant multiple players couldn't do it at once. And you're in a server with, 20, 30 players, so people were forming queues just so that they could get in and play the game in this game world. So, and there's so many instances with that with Ubisoft where, I mean, they're kind of known for releasing buggy games these days. It's particular with their online stuff. So I don't know. This is one I really want to be excited for, and I was excited for before talking about this. And we've got to give them credit. We haven't seen a lot about this game yet. But for what I'm seeing, it looks pretty, and it looks like it's certainly going to be fun. But do you jump in for an hour and a half and then you leave for a few days and then you come back? Is this something you could go, right, it's a Sunday, it's 10 a.m, I'm playing this for the next 10 hours because it's so good? Or do you go, this is a game that's just, you play a couple of hours and you drop it for a little bit and then you come back for a couple more hours? I really don't know. And it's slightly concerning because I really want it to be good. So I have a feeling those mechanics are going to feel really good. But I think it's going to be missing something, and I think that something will be the land stuff. And maybe they'll come out and say there is land stuff, or they're going to add it. Who knows? We really don't know much about this game right now. I'm not even convinced Ubisoft know much about this game right now. But yeah, concerning. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like semi looking forward to it. I love Black Flag as a game, and I like Sea of Thieves, but my problem is that, as you've said a lot, that there's not a lot out there. They haven't released a lot of information. It's the land stuff that's missing, and yeah, okay, they could potentially bring that in at a later point, but there's a time frame, isn't there? Like, once you get to a certain point and all the players drop off, there's no point bringing in the new stuff because no one's playing. And I just, I worry that it's going to be like it's going to be going on for too long, basically. Like, it's been in development for 9 years. People have almost forgotten about it. And I think if there's not something there to hook you, like a narrative, then it's going to fall down flat. And as I said, like, I'm sort of looking forward to it, but only because it's a pirate game. Yeah, I don't think it's going to get a very high score, if I'm honest.
I want to read to you a part of a Kotaku report. Apparently, the game has undergone multiple changes in direction and scope during development, exceeding its budget multiple times. Initially set in the Caribbean, it was moved to the fantastical Hyperborea. Bora Bora, I don't know. Then finally, the Indian Ocean. Gameplay was redesigned multiple times, focusing variously on naval exploration and ship-to-ship combat, before both were scrapped in favour of land-based survival elements inspired by games like Rust. That has obviously now been changed again because it looks it's back to more of a navy focus. Yeah,
I just don't know how exciting a ship can be as your character. Like, yeah, okay, you have this captain that you can play as, but if you're never playing as him and you're controlling a ship, I don't know how interesting it can be.
Yeah, it's interesting because this game is releasing 8th of November of this year, though I could see this getting delayed.
Yeah.
And what have we seen? We've seen one reveal event. And they gave us a fair bit there, but that character you play as didn't even say a word. No. And then you don't have to, obviously. There's plenty of games where there's a lack of story, but it's made up elsewhere. But it did seem to be a lot of the same thing reworded. Sorry, hold on. Excuse me. It was, you can fight ship-on-ship combat, or you can fight ship against multiple ships, or you can fight ships against trade routes. And it's just like, it's just the same thing worded differently with different complexity, and I don't think this game knows its own identity.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, I'm trying to think of examples where this has happened before. It definitely has. It's not popping to my head. Or maybe Fortnite, actually, interestingly. I have a feeling, best case scenario, this game comes out, it doesn't know its identity, and through people playing it and feeding back, it adds stuff post-launch that gives it its identity and makes it a better game. And that's almost Fortnite-esque, where Fortnite was supposed to come out as a survival zombie game, essentially, right, with building mechanics. And now it's the biggest battle royale in the world. And I don't think this game will reach that status of anything, but I do wonder if this game comes out, no one knows what it is, you play it for a bit, and people start to go, well, this is the best element. So Ubisoft switch and make their post-content to fit what players are enjoying the most out of the game. So maybe this game looks completely different in 3 years' time if it has any longevity to it.
I reckon it will become free to play after a year. 100%. Or
this could be an Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2 situation where 1's fine and 2 is a huge leap forward when they finally figure out what it is. I don't know. We'll see.
What would you score it then? What would you give? What Metacritic are you predicting?
It's a hard one. Because my initially was going to go in higher than Gotham Knights, but I'm not so sure now.
I think it's going to be 60s. Maybe high 60s. But
I'm going to go 68.
Fair, yeah.
Then at best, it gets a 7. Or a 70, sorry.
Alright, yeah. I'm on board with that.
Cheer me up. Hit me with Castillo Project.
Okay, I'm going to just correct you there. It's the Callisto Project.
My bad.
Or the Callisto, but not... anyway, the Callisto Project. Where are we? Okay, so it's end of the year. It's coming out in December the 2nd.
Trying to get out before the Dead Space remake, right?
I don't know, that's January, isn't it?
Yeah,
well, fun fact about that is that... So, Striking Distance Studios is the developer. It's actually their first game. They haven't had anything before because it's a new company created and led by Glenn Schofield. Now he is he worked on the first Dead Space and a lot of the Call of Duties going around.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a fun fact about Glenn Schofield.
Go for it.
His brother, Michael Schofield.
Who's Michael Schofield?
Broke Lincoln out of prison. Fun fact.
Oh, really?
No, it's just a prison break. Character was called Michael Schofield.
I haven't watched Prison. You've ruined my flow.
Right, well, great.
Cool, right, anyway, Glenn Schofield.
Okay. Brother of Michael Schofield.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Right, so he's done Dead Space and stuff before. Which is maybe, I don't know if, I doubt he's been working on the new remake of Dead Space, but yeah.
I've really interrupted.
I don't know what I'm saying now. Anyway, so obviously we've got no other games to compare to, but the Dead Space, the old Dead Space, not the remake, is that currently sat at a score of 89. So I never really played it. I played bits of it throughout the ages. Dead Space 1, 2, 3, played bits of it, but yeah, never really sat down. I don't really like horror games, so it's kind of a moot point for me to sit down and play a game that scares the shit out of me. But I'm keen for this one. I'm excited. The last horror game I played was Alien Isolation, I think. Came out like 2014 or something. It was terrifying. Very good. Anyway, quick overview of the story, like plot. So it's set on Jupiter's dead moon of Callisto in the year of 2320. The Callisto Protocol is a next-generation take on survival horror. The game challenges players to escape the maximum security penitentiary, Black Iron Prison, and uncover its terrifying secrets. A blend of horror, action, and immersive storytelling, the game aims to set a new bar for horror in interactive entertainment. Doesn't really give much away about the story, but tells us a lot about what we can expect. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It looks good based on the gameplay that we've seen, and obviously that's probably upscaled to an extent because it's still got another 4 months till its release, and it came out a couple of months ago now, so it's probably really been upscaled for release. But I think it's been done on Unreal Engine 5 or something. I don't know, you know more about that stuff than I do. So yeah, it looks really cool. Obviously it's a huge horror game, but it's also a mystery. Reading into it, the story is not just survival. You've got to find out what's happened, because you play this guy who played by Josh Duhamel or whatever his name is, and yeah, the idea is to figure out what happened to the other inmates, because they're all turned into these disgusting monsters, which you have to fight against and survive. Just like with Dead Space, it's a bit scary. Things jump out at you from vents. They crawl towards you, growing heads, and you have to chop off arms, and it's a bit gory, but you can see that the inspiration is directly from Dead Space. And I mean, I remember did it come out on the State of Play?
That's a good question. I think
it did, because I remember watching it, or it came out on one of these videos that was released. And I remember watching it and being like, this is Dead Space. This has got to be Dead Space. Even though I think Dead Space 1 was already announced, but I was like, maybe this is more Dead Space? But even so, I was still like, this is something like that, because it was gross. Graphics are way up there, based on what we've seen. And as I said, like, the story is very mysterious, and I want to explore that. Like, that's probably the main point for me. Like, I want to explore that, and I think that's going to be what kind of drags a lot of people in, to have this interactive story and experience the way that this character is going through these events, these horrifying events. And fun fact, maybe we should be called the Fun Fact Podcast, because we all just bring out these fun facts.
Is it going to be about Michael Scofield?
No, it's better than your fun fact. It was originally meant to be part of the expanded PUBG universe.
I remember this now. You said that. Shit, yeah.
Because the producer of the game, or the other studio that's working on it, that's not the developer, owns PUBG.
The publisher.
Publisher is, they publish PUBG. So the idea was that they were going to be set in the same universe, and when you play in the Callisto project, you see certain things that link back to it, little Easter eggs. They're like, oh, PUBG, maybe a helmet or something. Since they've scrapped that idea, because it's a dumb idea.
I was going to say, what a god-fucking awful
right?
idea. PUBG's not even that popular anymore. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, no. So they scrapped that idea since. But cool things I've seen since, like looking through gameplay and watching other things and reading articles, is apparently the main guy's going to have some really cool abilities. Like, for example, he's going to have this gravity gun, which can be used to like put a stasis effect on the enemies, and like throw them around the room, which is going to be very cool thing to play around with. Also, remember, you played Dead Space a lot more than I did, but do you remember the health bars in Dead Space?
Oh, what a fantastic piece of game design, yeah.
Well, they're bringing that back. So the health bars aren't going to be like part of the external HUD, so like part of your screen. They're going to be part of the character. So he's going to have a health bar like on his neck. So when he gets attacked, that goes down. You don't actually see it on the screen. So I think that's pretty cool to bring in that experience, so you're part of that world even more. It's just something that you have to look out for. Like, you're being attacked and you're like, oh crap, look at that flashing on his neck, he's nearly dead. And yeah, I just think it looks really cool. Like, there's not too much information about this game out right now. It's still got a couple of months to go, as I said. So yeah, and I think like if they do well, this studio, they can make some seriously good games in the future. Mostly, I just can't wait to be ripped to pieces again and again and again. But yeah, I mean, what do you think?
It's an interesting one for me. I love the Dead Space games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those, well, let's not talk about 3 as much, but 1 and 2, just absolutely fantastic. This is fascinating to me because I went on a whole diatribe on Gotham Knights about, oh, it's going to be compared to Arkham, it's going to be compared to this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that. I actually think this game is one of those rare exceptions where it doesn't fucking matter if it gets compared or not. People want this game to be like the original Dead Spaces, right? I know they've come out since and said they're going to remake Dead Space 1, which is fantastic, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'll play that.
But people will play it and people will buy it, but they always want new over remakes most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And I think with this game, it's one of those cases where they actually do want it to be compared to Dead Space. Sorry,
Well,
because
sorry, Karen.
they want this to be the spiritual successor to
Exactly
that.
what I was going to say.
It pretty much is. So with Gotham Knights, I'm like, oh, you can't compare it. That's going to go against its favor. People will mark it down lower because of the comparison. This, I think, will get a higher score the more like it's Dead Space it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's got a lot going for it. And it's got the people who worked on Dead Space doing it. Let's be honest, I watched some of that gameplay. It looks like Dead Space.
Yeah.
And it looks fantastic. I love horror games. I don't get scared like a little pussy called Mark, but it is what it is.
Screw you.
I'm excited for this one. I really am. And I think the more like the original Dead Spaces it looks, the better.
Yeah, looks, not story. It needs to be its own IP, I think, and have its own story. Like, obviously, it's a survival, but it needs to be separate in that sense. But yeah.
Oh, of course, from a story point, sure. But from a gameplay, if you look identical to the original Dead Spaces, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because it's been so long since we've had those games. If we don't count 3, which a lot of people
Why are we
like.
not counting 3? As I said, I haven't really played much of them, so...
3 became a much more of an action game and less of a horror game.
Oh, really?
And it forced co-op in, which no one really wanted.
Oh.
So if you go off based on Dead Space... Oh, I said Dead Rising then. Been playing too many zombie games recently. If you go off Dead Space 2's release date, which is PS3, so we're talking a very long time ago... I think people want a game that looks just like those games now. So, yeah, man, the more it looks like it, the better. I'm excited for this one. I think if they give it I don't think it even needs a good story. I mean, I would like a good story, but I think even if it's a fine story, but the gameplay is really nailed, I could see this getting in the 80s easily.
Yeah, well, it's not an action-adventure game, is it? So it doesn't need that narrative pinning it to success. It needs... it's the survival aspect, which is why people buy it. So as long as you have that horror survival aspect, and that is the main point, the rest will just come naturally, I think. So, yeah.
What you're scoring at, or where do you think it's
85, I think.
85.
85, I think. I was going to give it 90s, or like 9s, but I think I know. I think like nostalgia in terms of Dead Space will help it. I think it being the game's first studio, and also studio's first game, and also having the technology these days like PS5, I think that's going to help it do what it wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, they may not integrate it as it is coming out on multiple platforms, but could you imagine those adaptive triggers and that haptic feedback when you cut off limbs?
Yeah.
That could be very good.
And I think like a lot of companies, a lot of businesses and studios out there are just kind of like, they disregard those aspects because it's too much work, too much effort. But I think like with a new game from a new studio, I think they could really potentially bring all those bits into it. And yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of it. 85.
Awesome. 85. All right. Well, let's see where this all lands. We'll do an episode when all these games are out. So it might even be a January episode, I guess.
Yeah, because it would be January.
So we'll do an episode then. We'll go over what we actually thought of the games. I'm sure we'll talk about some of these games as and when they come out anyway.
Yeah. Especially
but
Skull
we'll go
and
over,
Bones.
yeah, especially Skull and Bones. But we'll go over how they did, and we'll see who's the real bitch or not.
Probably me.
I don't
too
know.
optimistic, I think.
I think you've probably nailed God of War.
Oh yeah. But that's not hard to do, is it? If we know
No,
it's going to be in
whereas
the
I
90s.
think one of these games could seriously tank, and I'm looking at you, Skull and Bones. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think we've done it.
Yep. We've done.
Well,
Just two friends talking.
thanks. Just two friends talking. Well, maybe that should be the name of the thing.
Yeah.
Just two friends talking games, something like that. Don't know.
All right. Well,
we'll see. Well, cheers, man.
yeah. Thank you. See you later.
Thanks for watching. Yeah.
See you later, viewers.
Like, subscribe, and
All that jazz.
comment, and touch me, and all that old stuff YouTubers say
Touch Jack,
to get you to follow.
Touch Jack.
All right. Fuck off.
Right.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.